Good evening and welcome to Inside Government. This is part of a series of shows for the spring 2021 semester here at Cayuga Community College and broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon Vios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to finally have in the studio, after 2 snowstorm cancellations, Auburn Mayor Michael D. Quill, who was scheduled to be our first guest as usual of the semester, but 2 storms in between. We were wondering if we were going to cancel school again today just because of you. Mayor Quill is just into the second year of his 4th term as mayor, first elected in 2007. He leads a city council made up of 4 Democrats and 1 Republican. With this being an election year, his fellow Democrat, Terry Cuddy, will be seeking re-election, but another, Debbie McCormick, is not. We've asked the mayor to join us to give us a city update and talking to him about a number of items that are now in the news, including the sexual harassment charges against the governor, plans to reassess properties, a deal to finally resolve the Callett property on Upper State Street, and we'll also be talking a little bit of baseball since Major League Baseball went back to spring training on Sunday, and the New York Penn League does not exist anymore.
No, it does not.
Welcome and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I only say that because I looked up your Wikipedia page, and it was brightly up there. So,
well, that's why we delayed a couple other weeks. I wanted to be here for my
you
birthday.
wanted to, everybody will sing for you in a second.
29 years old again.
Absolutely. You look wonderful for
Thank
that.
you.
So how are you and your family doing during COVID?
Everyone's doing fantastic. Wife and I have had both shots. Our son-in-law, who is a police officer out of not in the city, has had 2 of his. Our daughter has had 1, and my son and daughter-in-law have not decided yet what they're going to do.
But they're also under they're also under 65.
Yeah, way under.
So
way under.
They have to either get an exemption or prove a pre-existing condition. Right. Having known them both since their son plays with my son. So how are city departments operating under COVID at this stage?
City departments as always are doing fantastic. We've had a lot of snow in the last few weeks to start out there.
Yes, tell us about it.
Yeah, and they've been on top of it. The police department are many calls, but they're handling it with great leadership with Chief Butler and Chief Anthony. The fire department has been very involved with COVID vaccines, distributing them, inoculating an individual. City staff has been answering phone calls to help our residents get signed up for shots.
So I talked to 2 of your city planners on Sunday, and I know they've been down, in fact, at BOCES to help administer the tests. I know some firefighters who have been administering the vaccine as well. Right. So is this putting off, and I don't mean this in a negative point, but obviously this is shifting resources where you have everybody else they have their normal department. If we weren't in a COVID world, they would also have a full plate at this stage right now.
Yes.
But it really looks like the city, maybe because it's the largest municipality other than the county, is really stepping up and volunteering, in a sense, not as volunteers, they're not unpaid,
right.
but they're helping the county, helping Kathleen Cuddy and her staff, because there's a lot of work to be done.
Guy, I think I'm going to come to a conclusion for what you're asking. I give a lot of it, if not all of it, to Jeff Dygert,
city manager.
The city manager, with his background in emergency planning, catastrophe, redoing after a catastrophe, all that come together, and he's worked very closely with Aileen McNabb-Coleman, Kathleen Cuddy, and the health department, organizing all these different events for inoculations, for whatever the case may be, and it's worked out very, very well. But I believe that Jeff's forethought, knowledge, and experience has brought us a long way.
Do you, I don't think I've read it in the newspaper, so I'm assuming it is not the case, you cannot mandate that employees get the vaccine?
That's my understanding also.
But it does sound like most city employees, it sounds like the city manager, and he'll be on in a couple of weeks, I'll ask him same question, but just like Jeff Perazzola at the district, well, they can't mandate it, they are strongly urging and providing opportunities to get the shots.
Leading by example.
Okay.
Leading by example and bringing A and B together to have C, so yes.
So last March, we're almost at a year now. Last March, can't believe it is a year.
Yeah.
It's been a long year, but last March and then through the summer, parts of the city were closed in the sense of departments and whatnot. Is City Hall itself open for operations? I know some staff are working remotely, but can you walk into City Hall to see people?
You can. You can. For example, if you want to pay your tax bill.
You'll always do that.
Hopefully you'll always do that. But if you want a marriage certificate or license certificate, whatever you call it, you do have to go to the back door of City Hall, and there's signs. You have to go in through that way. No more front entrance. On the left-hand side as you walk in, there's a doorway. It's half a door. It's open all the time. There's always a city employee open in there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they find out.
That's a shift of resources as well.
It is. But you have to sign in. You have to have an ID card. Tell them where you're going. You just, years ago people walk in just to walk through, and it's not allowed. But if you
do you think we'll get back to that at some point?
I certainly hope so. It's such a beautiful building. I'm proud of it, like all city employees past. It's a beautiful building, and people should feel relaxed to come in there to look around just for the architecture and the way it was built. I don't think it'll ever be quite the same as it was maybe 5 years ago, but it's going to be a marked difference from what it is today.
So our city council meetings, I know that some people are doing them by Zoom, can tune in by Zoom. Are they open to the public?
Yes and no.
Okay.
All of our council meetings until at least the end of March will be on Zoom.
Okay.
You will need computer access. They're all recorded, so you can watch them later. And at the same time, we still have the public to be heard. If someone wants to be to address the council, they have to contact the city clerk's office and sign in. And during that council meeting at the beginning, we'll have that person on a Zoom call so they can have their 3 minutes.
Are you getting many people like that?
No.
And unless there's a controversy, it's not normally the case anyway.
Absolutely. But at the same time, all the council meetings are on Zoom, so anyone can watch the council meeting, not in person.
For you and for council, what's been the biggest challenge for COVID in this last year?
I don't really look at any one big challenge. I think it's, there's some weeks where you have many minor problems or things that we have to get through. But personally, I find it tough to go to a meeting on Zoom, only because I enjoy being face-to-face with people, watching body language, see what.
I think that's the biggest change is being in a room with somebody, you can see whether it's hitting them or it's not hitting them, or it's quizzical or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So let's change gears altogether.
Backing up,
absolutely.
And I'm on a couple boards at the Airport Authority. All these are non-paying. NYMER, New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, County Water and Sewer. They are all Zoom meetings also. So the city of Auburn is not doing something different. No one really meets in person anymore.
No, I have a board. We had all 18 people on 2 weeks ago on a call.
Yep.
I mean, it is, you got to watch to see which yellow box is lit up, that somebody wants to speak and things like that. So I want to shift gears. Obviously in the news today, maybe for consuming for the last 6 days, has been this issue of sexual harassment charges against the governor. Mm-hmm. What do you make of the charges?
Apparently, and that's not the correct way to start that out, the people that are pursuing these charges, they feel that they have been wronged. And I feel that we, as a state government, have to give them their due time and to find out, were they correct? Was the governor correct? Was there somewhere in between? I don't believe in pushing under the rug or anything.
So where they are at this particular stage, if what they are is at face value, do you think that will likely lead to a resignation?
It's too early for me to say. It really is. Guy, to be very honest, whatever TV channel you put on or whatever newspaper you pick up, you get a different slant on it. That's why I feel an investigation is important and critical. By a neutral party to find out what did or didn't happen and what was the context.
So the Attorney General, as far as you're concerned, is the proper pathway.
I believe so.
So I asked those questions because I want to get to this point, because you have it seems like you have a very good working relationship with Kathy Hochul,
Yes.
the Lieutenant Governor.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Yes. I think she's a wonderful lady.
So there are a lot of news stories in the last 48 hours. Who is she? What's she all about? If she should become governor, do you think that benefits Auburn?
I would hope that all of us would benefit from it, not just specifically Auburn. I have friends, relationships with people at all stages of the government, and not bragging. You know yourself, that's just the way it is.
Part of the job, develop those relationships.
It's necessary. The Lieutenant Governor and I tease each other. She's a Syracuse fan, and I'm a Notre Dame fan, as her husband is, and so we have a lot of fun with that. But she's a very fair person, and she's going to do whatever's best for everyone.
But she's, the governor's been good to Auburn because you've gotten some money from Albany, but she's been here a lot. The point I'm saying is the familiarity that you have and she has with Auburn and small cities like Auburn going to benefit Auburn if, for some reason, the governor doesn't recover from this crisis?
It certainly will not hurt Auburn. As you said, she's from the Buffalo area, a small town. She was in city government, so she understands all that. Real quick governor story. He called me one time. I was out driving with my oldest grandson, and the phone rang. It was unlisted. So he said, "You want me to answer that, Pa?" I says, "Yeah, go ahead." He picks up, says, "Hello," and he had this awful look on his face. And he says, "Pa, you better take this." It was the governor calling in regards to the, it was a DRI, or I forgot what exactly it was, but my poor grandson, I could still see the awful look on his face. So.
Well, it's a great thing he gets to have that communication.
Absolutely.
So speaking of DRI, let's talk about a couple projects that you've been working on. So in the news on Sunday was a story about Joseph Camardo regarding the Calitz building. It looks like you have well, first of all, what is being proposed at the old Calitz site on Upper State Street?
It is proposed to be a park of sorts with restricted hours. Its intention is for community use. Many times on State Street, the merchants in the area will have a St. Patrick's Day party or Valentine's Day party, whatever the case may be. This will get them off of State Street, so State Street is not blocked.
It becomes a through street all the time.
Yeah.
So the restrictions on the hours are basically a 9 to 5 during the week.
Right.
Everything else seems to be open, though I will say, I'm assuming weekends, I read the article and it wasn't clear, the weekends you can do things on Saturdays and Sundays there too.
With the proper permitting and guidelines.
So the city will be transferring some property this week to him, correct?
To Mr. Camardo.
He will not be paying for that?
It's my understanding, no.
And you have transferred some property already to some of the adjacent owners, like Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Though in his case, I believe he paid for part of the property.
I don't want to say, I won't correct you, but until I have the paperwork in front of me.
But all of the, what I would say, the outer rim properties, they will all be taking a chunk of the land, whether it's transferred to them for cost or not for a cost.
Right.
And
but the base of the park will be mainly city-owned.
Right.
Right, okay.
And then does this release the city from any, the biggest claim that Mr. Camardo has had over the last decade or so has been some environmental liability.
Right.
Does this release the city from that?
It's my understanding it will be.
And when do you see this project starting?
I would hope within very quickly. I know they have been talking with contractors, consultants, so forth and so on. Our city team wants to get moving on this and have this open for this. Everybody's dying to get outside. We've all been cooped up.
Right.
And this
so you think this could be finished this year?
I'm hoping so, from what I see of it.
And I thought I read the cost is $1.6 million.
I won't agree or disagree because I don't have.
But part of this is being paid for by
DRI.
the DRI, the
Correct.
Downtown Revitalization.
Right.
Does that mean the city also has to come up with a chunk of the money?
A portion of it, yes.
Okay. The other, and about 2 weeks ago, the city approved a reval of assessments.
Yes.
This will be done next year. or through this year to take effect next year. What does this entail?
It's nothing new. As I recall, may have even been when you were mayor. That
Want to get on a cycle?
every so many years, they do a curb appeal, I would call it, curbside visit, take a look at the home, see if it looks basically.
So people are not going inside homes?
Not to the best of my knowledge, they never have.
And is this being done by a consultant, or is this going to be city staff doing this?
It's mostly city staff.
Okay. So the first time you were mayor, when they went to a regular cycle, and I totally agree with what you're doing, 2014, so 2018. So this one will take effect in 2022, so
correct.
the February rolls. Does this mean everybody, this is the point you get every time somebody said the horrendous words revaluation.
Yeah.
Does this mean everybody's taxes are going up next summer?
No, it does not. It doesn't mean that they won't, but it doesn't mean it's a guarantee you're going up. I find it interesting. On Sundays in our local newspaper, they have property transfers. And it's always amazing what a home is purchased for versus what it's assessed at. The assessment is always, in these days, it's always lower than what they're being purchased for.
So, telling stories out of itself. So I used to give tours to kids. I don't know if you do or don't right now, but I always take second and third graders or fourth graders throughout the building. Until I got in trouble taking them up to the bell tower, but that was a liability issue. I always would go up to the assessor's office, and I remember one child saying, well, what's this office do? I said, this is the office where every parent hates what goes on here, doesn't believe what the value is until they're ready to sell their house, and it's always higher than that. So the city also, within the last couple of months, or last month, also had a conversation about the new Heritage Center, commonly known as the Visitor Center. There. That is still being run by the Business Improvement District, correct?
Yes. Yep.
You have a contract operating.
Being operated, right.
So
I don't want anyone to feel that the Business Improvement District owns the property or anything like that.
No, the city owns the property.
The city owns, but I just want to clarify that.
So does that mean all the costs are city right now, whether it's operating, maintenance, all those costs are the cities?
Are the cities.
Any idea how much that's costing?
No. Budget will be coming out, initial budget very shortly. I'd be glad to get back to you, but I don't know offhand.
Is the state contributing anything at this point?
They are working with us in the market area. There's
a market with inside.
For your snacks, your sodas, things of that nature.
Or you can buy Auburn products or Cayuga County products.
And I believe that's a little bit two different things, but.
So Major League Baseball started their first games on Sunday. I was treated to listening to the Yankees for a very long period of time on Sunday. But one of the offshoots of Major League Baseball is no more, and that's the New York Penn League, correct?
Correct.
So the City Council this week is looking at an operating agreement with a group to bring baseball to Falcon Park this summer, correct?
That's correct.
So who's in the deal? What's being proposed?
Bottom line, it's the group that's involved. They have many cities in central New York with a ball team already. For example, Batavia, Geneva, somewhere.
Which are the old New York Penn League years ago, decades ago, before
Absolutely.
They got too expensive to run ballparks.
Absolutely. Basically, what it is a young ball player wants to make it to the big leagues, but they have to get out, and their face has to be seen by scouts and so forth. So they pay a fee to one of these leagues. They play, I believe it's in June and July. In August, they're all done. They play probably every day, once a day.
So it looks like from the schedule there'll be 26 or so games. It's down from the 40-something.
Yep.
But that will be using Falcon Park for that many games.
Yes.
And a couple of sidelights on the deal, just if you can confirm them or however. There's still going to be the double days.
The double days is a trademark owned by the city of Auburn, so we're not giving that up for nothing.
And so when they sell merchandise, you're getting a cut. When I say you, the city,
no,
which means
correct.
taxpayers
You're correct.
are.
You're correct.
So in the past, the city has had a maintenance crew out there,
Yes.
and obviously the college has its own separate group out there. Does this mean that this group will maintain the field at their expense for that June, July, August period? Or has that not?
It's my understanding we're going to maintain the field because between us in the college, we want it to remain as pristine as it is presently. So we're going to
Turf field, it's relatively new, and
at the same time, our staff is still, city staff is still talking about concerts, different other events down there. So we want to keep this the way it is.
And I know our coach for Cayuga, TJ Gamba, will be out there again this season in the coming weeks. And there are slots set aside that Cayuga students, at least one, if not more, need to be given the opportunity to play on this, correct?
Yeah.
This is how long is this agreement for?
I can't answer that because I don't want to give you a wrong number. So
okay, so I thought I had read that there would be about a 3-year agreement on there.
That sounds about right, but as I said, I won't guarantee that.
The other piece that I thought was interesting was health and safety. We started the show with COVID and talking about that. It does sound like you're asking for health and safety protocols, masks, and whatever is mandated by either the county or the state of New York or the federal government will be enforced.
Yes. Yep.
So I kind of take that as being that there is no way you're going to fill 2,000 seats or 2,300.
No.
If you're going to keep.
But we haven't, regardless.
Right.
In years.
But people shouldn't expect at the first or second game that's going to be a full stadium just because of COVID.
It's hard to say. It really is. Some people go to every game. Some people go. You know how sporadic it is.
Yeah, I do.
And it depends on who's playing too. We don't have the major league teams competing as we have in the past. These are more local kids, everyday kids that they want to make it big, but their parents are coming in town to see a ball game. So it's hard to say what the crowd will be.
I may say this facetiously, but I know this was not necessarily City Manager Jeff Dygert's favorite subject to deal with. But it is important. He saw it as important to the city. Yeah. City Council. Did the City Council see having something at Falcon Park every summer as being a priority?
No one ever wanted to lose the ball team. Falcon Park is beautiful. Just the historic value, all the money we have pumped into it. No one wanted to just lock it up and walk away. We couldn't do that. There was so much money spent between the college, the state, and the city for synthetic turf. Jeff is his mind. He's a very interesting. You should take him to lunch a couple of times. He's a very interesting man. He is always working. There's something always going on in his mind. How this plastic water bottle, how this could help the city, or how it could be a detriment to the city.
You just renewed your contract with him.
We did.
Do you still see him staying here another 5, 10 years? I mean, he will be. Right now, he's on track to be your second longest city manager after Bruce Clifford.
Yeah.
I would think at this rate.
Well, it was almost a revolving door for many years.
It was 6 or 7.
As you left city government.
Right.
And yeah.
Even when I was there, it was we went through a lot. So, do you think that longevity has helped allow him to do these things?
I do, and at the same time, he's been there as a firefighter, working his way up to the fire chief, and he is, in my mind, he's earned the respect of all the firefighters, the other unions that he deals with, the police union, public works, and so forth. So he has a reputation a good reputation with all of them, and I think that helps considerably.
I want to turn to fire and police in just a second, but one last question comes to mind. Obviously, the New York Penn League folded.
Yes.
Did Major League Baseball ever pay the city of Auburn anything?
No.
So on that valuation, okay.
No. We still have our fingers crossed, but no.
Not expecting that check.
Checks in the mail.
True.
Right?
And the way the post office is going, you might get it in the next millennium. So
let's not blame the post office. They do a great job.
Status of the new fire department on Seminary?
As I said before the program, I go to work that way down Nelson Street, and every day, 2 or 3 times. They're moving forward. They've had a relatively mild winter. They're getting a little behind, which is to be understood, but they still feel that it's going to open when proposed.
So you still think it's on track on that? And that will be completed when, would you hope? Is it this year or next year?
Next year, I believe
Next year.
it is.
So Auburn Police Chief Sean Butler will be here
Yes.
on Tuesday. We did not plan to have two city guys back to back.
It's okay.
But thanks to the snowstorm, we do that. Have you or the city named his replacement yet?
No, we have not. We have not.
Will that be a decision made by you and council? Was that a city manager decision?
As you know, the police chief is a civil service position. The city manager, we had talked with council if the council is going to be involved with it. I think the feeling is that councilors would like the chance to interview the candidates, but the city manager will make his decision in that regard when time comes.
So last time around there was an external search.
Yes.
This time it does look like you have three reachable, and that's an important distinction, reachable candidates, because in the past not you, but the city has offered it to individuals, and then they still have to take a civil service exam.
Right.
And we sometimes think that experience comes with a lot of great things, but the inverse of that is they're not really good test takers, being so far from test taking, and sometimes that becomes a challenge. So the plan right now is to do an in-house with the three reachable candidates.
That's correct. In to back up just a little bit, I don't believe the city manager has set out any, this date we're doing this date we're doing there. I know he's always welcome the council input on it.
Oh, we'll ask him in 2 weeks.
Okay, I won't steal his thunder.
So you have known Chief Butler since he was with the department?
Yes, a long
Any
time.
thoughts about him?
He was the right chief at the right time. He was definitely and still is an asset, not only to the police department, but the city in general. He has a knack of talking with people, not talking at them.
Very personable.
Absolutely. He's a very, in my mind, nice person, gentle person, but at the same time, he has that air about him that he is the police chief, and he doesn't brag about that, puff his chest out or anything, but just
But when
talk with him.
the country was going through some nasty stuff with the Black Lives Matter, and I say nasty stuff in the sense that people were very angry at what had happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, a number of others. It's unfortunately too long to list, unfortunately. He seemed to be out there and having this conversation before it became an issue.
Absolutely. Very, very perceptive.
And do you think that has helped? You're going to be asked to vote on a plan at some point. The governor has an executive order to look at police departments. Do you think that has helped that process along?
Without a doubt, I know it has.
Okay.
And just talking from folks throughout the community, and especially the minority community, they don't always agree with them.
But they respect him.
That's where I was going. They respect him, and his
didn't
word
mean
is
to answer for
no,
him,
no, that's okay. But his word is his bond, and he has the ability to see everything from different angles.
Two final questions as we wrap
course.
up. Besides the budget, which you're going to be working on now for the July 1st date, and obviously we have a chief issue coming up. What's on the agenda for City Council over the next couple of months?
Just nothing out of the ordinary that I see. Just more development. We have many new industries in our community, and just working with them. There's been expansion with a couple, Courier Plastics, for example, down at Technology Park. There's been expansion down there. So it's just continuing to work with folks, government can be testy at times, trying to accomplish anything, and just having the right staff.
So a lot
in place
of
to
the
work with
effort
them.
will be on the budget, though.
Absolutely. Well, it always is.
And do you expect any additional aid or additional cuts from the state of New York?
We have our fingers crossed every day.
Mayor, we'd like to thank you for joining us, finally getting you here in the studio. Again, happy birthday. We hope you'll join us in the fall to give us a city update. You're not on the ballot this year, but two of your colleagues are. But our guest has been Michael D. Quill, the mayor of the city of Auburn, and we appreciate him rescheduling with us so many times. As we said on Thursday, March 4th, this week, we'll have Auburn Police Chief Sean Butler, who is retiring, I think in May or June this year,
Very soon.
to talk about his department, his future plans, the issues of the state-mandated review of operations that we mentioned, as well as his efforts over the last 2 years to get state accreditation, which are very important. Next Tuesday, we'll be back in the studio with Auburn Superintendent of Schools Jeff Perzola to update us where the district is in both dealing with COVID-19 restrictions and having students go back to school 5 days a week in the classroom. And next Thursday, Keith Cutler, the Executive Director of East Hill Medical, will be in the studio. His agency is celebrating 50 years since being founded here in Cayuga County. In fact, if you go by the corner of the Metcalf Plaza, they've got a display up, started to go up, about the history of East Hill. It's an interesting look if you are driving in the downtown area. We do have a number of guests who will be here in the next couple of weeks, including Assemblyman John Lamondes. City Manager Jeff Digert will be here. Port Barn Superintendent of Schools Neil O'Brien, the Dean of Cayuga County Superintendents, who's also ready to retire this year. We'll talk about his service to the community. And Cayuga Seneca Community Action Agency's Director of Family and Victim Services, Frank Bar-Winzak, will be in to discuss the spike in domestic violence incidents recently, as well as the Planning Director for the Healing Community Study, Monica Salvage, who will talk about the increase in opioid overdoses that we've seen over the last several months. We'll also be doing, as usual, our forum for the Auburn Large School District in late April. It will be by Zoom with myself moderating it and Citizen Executive Editor Jeremy Boyer asking the questions. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can let us know your thoughts and ideas for guests or questions. You can send them to Inside Government or be on the front page at 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York, or you can send them by email to cozguytho@aol.com. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you have a great night, a good day tomorrow. We'll see you back here in the studio on Thursday, and be safe.